This isn't my story, but this is what I witnessed last night at the friendly local game store. I had gotten the email that my Pathfinder 2nd Edition books had arrived, so I headed up to the store last night to pick them up. There were two people setting up a table, getting set up for D&D. I'm assuming that the woman was the DM, as she was setting up the maps, the screen, and pulling notes out of her bag. As the clerk and I were chatting about the upcoming Superman movie, what looked like the rest of the table entered the store. One of them looked at the guy who was with the woman during the setup and stopped dead in his tracks. He just stood there, looking like he was about ready to cry. Eventually, he shouted, "You asshole!" sobbed, turned around, and fled the store. I looked at the clerk with a raised eyebrow, and he said, "Oh, him? He's been simping over the DM for weeks now, pulling the whole m'lady crap. I guess he didn't like the t-shirt her boyfriend was wearing." I looked again and saw what set him off. The guy who was helping the DM set up, I now knew was her boyfriend, had a shirt that said, "I'm sleeping with the DM." I nodded, paid for my books, and got out of there before more drama hit. You know, sometimes I forget that the 2014 interpretation of a neckbeard is an actual archetype of human being until I hear about an unfortunate story like this from either a friend or one of these posts. Like, just be normal. Is that so damn hard? Like, I know it can be jarring for some guys to find out that women are also in your hobby, but if you're constantly flirting with someone and they're not reciprocating it, there are probably some good reasons why. My name is Jacob Crowe, and welcome to the Crowe's Perch, where we hated Elon Musk for being a Nazi long before it was cool and trendy. Also, he owes me like $1,000 for Dogecoin. You know how much money I could have made if it actually reached $1? I wouldn't have a YouTube channel, I'd tell you that much. Instead, I'd be running D&D games from Cancun in a Joe Manganiello-style tabletop man cave, where I invite celebrities from all over the world for beer, and the ability to pretend to be a goofy kobold murder hobo with a heart of gold and a magic spear for 4 hours every Tuesday evening. But instead, here we are. Luigi's the one in prison instead of him, and the world is worse for it. But you didn't come here for the inane delusions of grandeur and radicalization by a cartoon bird. You came for C-tier commentary and RPG horror stories, both of which I have. And so, without further ado, let's gather up a murder and dive right into these stories. This happened a few years ago at our DM's house. He was hosting an apocalyptic campaign set in Middle-earth, but with a very loose connection to actual Tolkien lore. I remember I was playing a drow barbarian from the ruins of Mordor, for example. The problem player in this story was playing as a human wizard. He was actually the DM's sister's boyfriend at the time. She was playing with us. I never was crazy about him, but he seemed somewhat normal until we started playing. At which point, he got super competitive and self-important. His character had to be more important than everyone else's, especially the DM's sister's. She was an orc cleric. I remember, for example, the party being sent to an eastern city-state called Isenor to investigate the rise of a new Dark Lord, and he monopolized 80% of the dialogue with NPCs and would remind the party that he was the leader of this investigation, because the wizard always leads the party in Middle-earth. And any NPC, of course, who reminded him that he is not a Maiar like Gandalf, basically the DM's way of keeping his ego in check, would either get harassed, murdered, or even in one case, he attempted to commit sexual violence on an NPC who told him to fuck off, and that he was not a true wizard. Brother, the only staff you should be waving around is the one you use for the somatic components of your spells. Tolkien's work is pretty damn clean, so I have no idea why he immediately went for SA in a Middle-earth setting. Like, bro immediately became the breeding farm DM the moment he was hit with an ounce of resistance against his bullshit antics. DM stopped him, oh thank God, and warned him that there would be none of that in this campaign. He didn't argue, but did shit-talk the DM and claimed he was busting my balls for not letting his character be authentic and denying my player agency. Authentic to a sex offender registry, you wacky goober. All I'll say is don't ask him what he does at the wizard tower during his freak-off rituals. The town guard found 10 gallons of grease during their last raid, and I can assure you that not a drop was used for spellcasting. The final session with him, and of this campaign, unfortunately? Really? I'm not so sure about that, was when we did find the Dark Lord and confronted trusted him. We as a party way overestimated our strength, which was our fault. This led to everyone but DM's sister and another player, Hobbit Barbarian, dying. This includes DM's sister's boyfriend, who raged at the DM for allowing us to even fight such a high-level enemy just to get killed. He said, "You knew what we were up against and killed off most of the party, piece of shit DM, because you couldn't handle my character." And then bizarrely claiming, "You can't handle the fact that I'm balls deep inside your sister every day, you jealous ass bitch."
No, alright. I know that sounds bad.
Do I want to unpack what he's implying? I wonder. Oh, where's the mind scrubbing bleach? Okay, all I could find is tea, unfortunately. This is a damn fine cup of tea. God, this is like the second time I've done this now. This is turning into like a mukbang channel. Do you guys remember mukbangs? Do you remember those still a thing? Okay, so from what I'm gathering, what it seems to be that he's implying, the DM wants to f his own sister, at least in the eyes of this player here, and he believes that by being in a relationship with the DM's sister, that he is effectively like cucking him or something, at least in this imaginary scenario that this player has envisioned in his mind's eye. And if I were to take this examination even further, it seems that this player believes, delusionally mind you, that this DM is taking this out on to the player by killing his character, all that jazz, whatever. So now that we've dissected this all, we've all gotten through this together, that leads to one single question that I would like to ask this player. How do I put this? What the f is wrong with you? Anyway, let's just see what the DM does. DM was obviously also getting angry at this point and telling him what a baby he was. Yeah. And he kept yelling at DM as me and DM's sister try to calm him down. He then tells DM's sister, "Shut the f up." And then DM got in his face and said, "Don't you ever talk to her like that." And then he punched the DM in the face and knocked him to the ground and started strangling him. His sister was freaking the hell out, and Hobbit Barbarian was trying to pry him off, and then I threatened to call the police on him. And that's what got him to stop. He got up in my face for a second, and then just stormed out. We all check on the DM, and he was okay. His sister insisted that he got checked out by a doctor, so he did, and was fine medically. The shit stain called DM's sister to try to apologize, but kept making excuses about how DM was apparently trying to provoke a fight, but she was done with him and told him she never wants to see him again. So he started raging at her and saying that she never stood by him, and then started making disgusting suggestions about her having sex with the DM, which, might I remind you, is her brother. She blocked him, and I have no idea what they did in terms of legal action or if that psycho ever called again. But that game kind of got soured and we never finished it. We ended up playing D&D again about a year later with a new setting and characters, and we are still friends. Damn, I wonder why the girlfriend never stood by him. That's crazy. It's almost like he's a twisted, dark psychopath. Never mind that he said that SA is a core feature of his character's personality during the game, and that stopping him from assaulting women is railroading, actually. Or if implying that her brother wants to do the f with her right before punching him in the goddamn face may have impacted why she didn't want to defend him. I have a close friend that was with a guy with a similar man-child angry personality, so I was just thinking the whole time while reading this that thank God the sister in this story didn't end up marrying the guy. The wholesome horror of Harvey. Seen a lot of absolute horror stories here. This one's a bit different. It was around 2004 through 2005, and I was one of a 5-member weekly 3.5 D&D group. We were all quirky and complicated in our own ways, but the main character of this tale is Harvey. Harvey was our age, but he was already going bald, had thick, dark-rimmed glasses, a porn stash, and spoke with a heavy lisp. I'd met Harvey independently through another friend, which was the same story for 2 of the other guys at the table. Somehow everyone had met or hung out with Harvey at some point somehow, and I can't quite remember who actually invited him to play. I ended up being Harvey's ride to most sessions. He had no car, and regularly took him to the Biscuitville drive-thru on the way home. Harvey had no money. What Harvey did have in abundance were dogs. He was typically pre-blazed when I picked him up and weaved in and out of a comical stupor while gaming, but I don't think his cognizance would have made an issue one way or the other. Dice hated Harvey. I can't really think back and remember any time a roll ever went Harvey's way. He ended up playing barbarians, not because it matched his mental state, but because it was the only class with enough hit points to survive his luck. Harvey also liked to get into trouble. Lots of trouble. He regularly started fights with NPCs and interrupted BBG monologues just before we got the information we needed. He chugged unidentified potions, charged right into obvious traps, and made everything an out-of-character sex joke. He pretty much did everything a player wasn't supposed to do, but the game was somehow better, and we had a lot of fun with his crazy antics. There was one time he called me from a grocery store to pick him up. This was a new one for Harvey. When I arrived, he was hugging a large brown paper shopping bag, like his life depended on it, and his eyes were fully dilated. When I asked if he was okay, he simply shouted back, "I've had 10 blotters of acid." Okay, that escalated quickly. When we got to the DM's house, Harvey made a beeline for the kitchen. He screamed about his acid intake, then forbid anyone from entering the kitchen. We were all a little worried. We'd figured we'd start the game and he'd make his way to the table when he heard us playing. We're 15 minutes in and it's Harvey's turn. Harvey shouts, "10 blotters of acid!" again from the kitchen. And the DM takes over playing Harvey's barbarian until the dude calms down. Another 15 minutes go by and Harvey finally comes out of the kitchen. He's holding a full plate of freshly baked cinnamon buns and proceeds to offer them to us one at a time, as if he were the waiter at a restaurant. Waiter? Less cinnamon buns and more acid, please. Nothing like a calming dose of LSD to get me through my imaginary dragon game. Really makes me feel like I'm right there in the Forgotten Realms. He then sat down and played the rest of the night as a slightly more polite, entirely normal version of himself. Wow, that's completely surprising, okay. Until we got to the BBEG. Okay, there we go. Harvey baited the DM launching into a monologue after promising never to cut him off again. The DM gets in 5 words before Harvey yells, "I don't give a f*** what you think," and rolls initiative. A session or two later, his absurdity and bad rolls gets my fighter killed, and the entire group TPK'd not long after that. As horrible as he could be, he was a lot of fun, and I miss him at some of my quieter tables. I'm gonna keep it $1.50 with you guys and let you know that like 90% of tables, including my own, would probably find Harvey's antics annoying as shit. But at least it's funny to talk about after the fact. The goddamn cinnamon roll part just absolutely destroys me. Like out of everything that could have been in that paper bag, bro just had a craving for some sweet treats. But look, as for my verdict, and by the decree of the Corvid Court, I hereby sentence Harvey to a 12-week baking program at his nearest culinary school, in the hopes that he swaps out his LSD and blotting paper for some parchment paper and flour, with a possible pardon if he could bake some cinnamon rolls to present to the Corvid Court himself. This isn't that crazy, but here's my entry. So I live abroad in Taiwan, and a couple years ago, I was trying to find a game to play in, as I had really had the itch to play, because I hadn't since I had lived in the States. I posted on a foreigners group asking if anybody was interested in playing, and I got some interest from this guy who said him and his girlfriend were going to start up a game and that it would be her first time. I was kind of excited about the idea that there would be another woman in the group, because I've had bad experiences abroad with all-guy groups. He had pitched it to me as roleplay heavy and kind of relaxed, because he didn't want to scare away his girlfriend. He said it would be chill. That unfortunately turned out to not be the case. The group chat is where it really all started to go bad. It wasn't anything insane, but the guy was just really incessant. I already hate group chats, and this guy was messaging at all hours of the night and getting kind of upset if we didn't message him back quickly. No big deal though. I know DMing is a lot of work, and probably he was anxious to get stuff set up. We were going to play Lost Mines of Phandelver, which I thought would be good because it's the opener module, and he said his girlfriend was new. After a while of setting up the game, he started to lay out some rules that were definitely not chill. For example, one of the things he said was that we needed to all be in costume, because his girlfriend really liked the idea of dressing up, but didn't want to feel like the odd one. I fucking love doing weird bits with costumes. It's actually one of my favorite things. But I just got a bad vibe that he told us that we had to, because I also can't guarantee that I'm going to have a costume every single time, considering I was going to have to ride public transport to get there. He also was going to make potions, and whenever we drink a potion, or any consumable, we were actually going to have to drink his alcoholic drinks that he would put in these potion bottles. Again, a really cool idea and concept if it comes up organically, but I just find it weird that it's like, no, you have to drink my vodka shots every time you want healing or any other potion. The final thing that really got me was that I had created a male character and my husband had created a female character, because why not? He all of a sudden started asking lots of questions about us, and making sure this wasn't some kind of kink thing, which it absolutely was not. I just wanted to play a male character, and I thought it was weird that that was the first thing he jumped to. On top of this, he kept interrogating me and telling me that he didn't think that I, as a woman, could do a convincing male voice, and that would probably break immersion for his girlfriend. Do you know how many male characters you grew up listening to are voiced by women? Do you know how many streamers can pull off a convincing voice of another gender? Bro clearly doesn't know anything about voice training, and it's frankly embarrassing. Also bringing up that he thought that this was, some kind of kink? Massive red flag. Like, why is that even on the mind? Do you think they're like a swinger couple? Are you trying to be their unicorn or something? It just sounds like he wants to get her drunk in a skimpy fantasy outfit in the hopes that she'd want to fuck him. Like, come on, bro. What's the plan here? This is pathetic. I've seen men try harder in the misconnections threads on Craigslist. Be better. He kept underlining and bolding the fact that this was roleplay heavy, and that he expected me to roleplay with a voice, and he demanded voice notes where I did male voices. I just kind of ignored this because I know I can do it, and this isn't a job. I assured him I've been roleplaying for a long time, and I was in theater, and he shouldn't worry. I will bring the roleplay. He just really wouldn't give up on this point, and I was not going to do this, so I just kind of stopped responding after a bit. That's when he went absolutely nuclear, sending me like 30 messages about how he'd spent like $1,300 USD on sets, and costume pieces, and modular terrain, and I was like, well, I didn't ask for all that. Not my problem. Anyway, I blocked him and decided to start my own campaign as a first-time DM. Been going on almost 2 years now, and it was the best decision I've ever made. So, happy ending, all in all. I always love when people say things like, oh, this one wasn't that crazy, right before describing how their DM wanted to get them drunk in a stranger's house and dress them up as their fantasy sex doll, right before transforming into an insane, clingy ex-boyfriend over text, minus the ex and boyfriend. To the OP, I'm glad your intuition really kicked in here, and you just noped the hell out of this. This gives me as weird of a feeling as this story I covered about 3 years ago about this Nazi guy who set up a kill room for a gay player. I'll put the link for that one in the description of this video if you haven't already seen it. But to anyone else, please video call people. Please go with your gut and bail if they frequently send you strange texts and show a lot of clingy behavior before you even meet up with them. And please, please, please don't drink anything from tinted glasses if you didn't see the drinks get prepared in the first place. Obviously, it's different if they're friends of a friend or anything like that. I personally just don't drink with strangers in any situation other than a bar, or if I brought the drinks myself. This isn't carte blanche to be hyper paranoid, but keep your wits about you. But anyway, those are today's stories, these are my thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed today's stories and you consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And if you want to submit your own stories to the channel, feel free to send them to my email in my about section, or hop on over to my Discord and post it on the story submissions channel. Thank you once again to my lovely patrons, and I will see you all next time. As the crow flies.